The first thing he noticed wasn't the siren. It was the way she kept running. Not fast, not desperate. Just steady, like she trusted the rhythm of her own heartbeat more than anything happening behind her. Officer Daniel Reyes eased his patrol car along the quiet suburban road. Red and blue lights flickering against trimmed hedges and white picket fences. It was barely 6 a.m., the kind of hour where the world felt paused between night and day. Most people were still asleep, but not her. She moved like she belonged to the morning. Daniel frowned slightly, glancing at the report on his dashboard. Suspicious activity. Female jogging repeatedly past the same block. Residents had called it in twice. It sounded ridiculous even to him. Still, protocol was protocol. He stepped out of the car, adjusting his belt as the cool air hit his face. "Ma'am," he called, his voice firm but not harsh. "Can you stop for a moment?" She slowed, not abruptly, not nervously. Just calmly, like she had expected this. That alone made Daniel uneasy. She turned to face him, breathing steady, not even winded. There was something about her presence, grounded, composed, that didn't match the situation. "Yes, officer?" she said, her tone polite, almost curious. Daniel cleared his throat. "We've had a few calls. People are concerned about someone running up and down this street repeatedly." Her eyebrow lifted slightly. "Concerned?" They described it as unusual behavior. For a second, he expected irritation, maybe defensiveness. Instead, she smiled. Not mockingly, not dismissively, just genuinely. "Well," she said, brushing a strand of hair back, "I suppose I can understand that." "It is a bit early." Daniel hesitated. Something about her response threw him off balance. Most people didn't react like this, especially not when stopped by police. "Do you have any ID on you?" he asked. She gestured lightly toward a small armband holding her phone. "Just that. I don't usually carry much when I run." Daniel nodded, though his instincts were starting to stir. There was confidence in her posture, but not arrogance. Ease, but not carelessness. Still, procedure. "I'm going to need you to come with me," he said. "Just until we clear things up." For the first time, her expression shifted, but not into fear. Into something else, something quieter. "All right," she said simply. No argument, no resistance, and somehow that made Daniel even more uncomfortable. At the station, the early morning calm hadn't yet given way to the usual buzz. A few officers glanced up as Daniel walked in with the jogger beside him. There were looks, subtle, curious. Daniel ignored them. "Have a seat," he said, gesturing toward a chair. She sat, folding her hands loosely in her lap, her gaze moving calmly around the room, taking everything in. "You're handling this very well," Daniel said before he could stop himself. She looked at him, a faint smile returning. "Is that unusual?" "Most people get nervous." "Should I be?" The question lingered between them. Daniel shifted his weight. "Depends." "On what?" "On whether there's something to be nervous about." For a moment, she just studied him. Not in a challenging way, but in a way that made him feel like he was the one being assessed. Then she nodded, as if coming to a quiet conclusion. "Fair enough," she said. Daniel stepped away to run her information, or at least try. Without ID, it wasn't straightforward. As he spoke to dispatch, something odd happened. The tone on the other end changed. At first, it was routine. Then it wasn't. "Repeat that name," the dispatcher said. Daniel frowned. "I didn't give a name." A pause. "Who is she, Officer Reyes?" Daniel glanced over his shoulder. The woman sat exactly as before, calm, composed, watching. "I'm trying to figure that out," he said. Another pause. Longer this time. Then quietly, "Put your sergeant on the line." Daniel's stomach tightened. 10 minutes later, the entire atmosphere of the station had shifted. His sergeant, Mark Ellis, walked in fast, too fast for a normal morning. "Daniel," he said under his breath, pulling him aside. "Tell me exactly what happened." Daniel did. Every detail. When he finished, there was silence. Then Ellis exhaled slowly, rubbing his forehead. "Okay," he said. "We're going to fix this." "Fix what?" Daniel asked, confusion creeping in. Ellis looked at him, something unreadable in his expression. "That," he said, nodding toward the woman. Daniel turned. She was still sitting there, still calm, still watching. But now there was something different in the room. Respect, tension, recognition, and Daniel felt it all hit him at once. "Who is she?" he asked quietly. Ellis hesitated, then said, "That's Chief Lauren Mitchell." The words didn't register at first. "Chief? As in—" His chest tightened. "You're joking." "I wish I was." Daniel's mind raced back through the morning. The stop, the questions, the request to bring her in. He felt his stomach drop. "I arrested the police chief?" "Detained," Ellis corrected gently, and unintentionally. Daniel let out a breath that felt like it scraped his lungs on the way out. "I didn't know." "I know," Ellis said. "And so does she." Daniel swallowed hard. "Am I in trouble?" Ellis looked at him for a long moment. "That depends," he said. "On what happens next." Daniel approached her slowly. For the first time since the encounter began, he felt unsure of himself. "Ma'am," he started, then stopped. "Chief, She raised a hand slightly, not to silence him, but to ease him. "It's all right, Officer Reyes," she said. Her voice hadn't changed. Still calm, still steady. "I didn't know who you were," he said. "I was just responding to a call." "I'm aware. I followed procedure." "And you did it respectfully." Daniel blinked. That wasn't the reaction he had expected. "I'm still sorry," he said, "for bringing you in." She tilted her head slightly, considering. "Do you know why I didn't tell you who I was?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "Because I wanted to see how you'd handle it," she said. He frowned slightly. "Handle what?" "Uncertainty, authority, pressure." She leaned back just a little, her eyes steady on his. "You treated me like a person," she continued. "Not like a problem, not like a threat, and not like someone beneath you." Daniel felt something shift in his chest. "That matters," she said quietly. The room seemed to hold its breath. "You did your job," she added, "and you did it with respect." Daniel exhaled slowly, the tension easing just a little. "Thank you, ma'am." She smiled faintly. "Lauren," she said, "at least for this conversation." He nodded, though it felt strange. There was a pause. Then she asked, "Can I tell you something, Officer Reyes?" "Of course." "This job," she said, gesturing lightly around them, "it's not about power, it's about people, and that's something a lot of officers forget." Daniel listened, every word settling deeper than he expected. "You didn't forget," she said, and somehow that meant more than any commendation. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Paperwork, quiet conversations, a few relieved laughs once the tension broke. But Daniel couldn't shake the feeling of what had just happened. Not the mistake, but the meaning behind it. As Lauren prepared to leave, she paused by his desk. "Officer Reyes," she said. He stood quickly. "Yes, Chief?" She handed him a small card. "My direct line," she said. He hesitated. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because officers like you," she said, "are the ones who remind people why this badge matters." Daniel felt his throat tighten slightly. "I just did my job." She shook her head gently. "You did more than that." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she added softly, "Kindness isn't weakness in this line of work. It's strength. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." And with that, she turned and walked out. Weeks later, the story had spread. Not in headlines, not in viral posts, but in quiet conversations, among officers, among community members. The story of a cop who treated a stranger with respect, without knowing who she was. And Daniel noticed something changing. In himself, in others, people seemed softer, more willing to listen, more willing to trust. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the streets gold, Daniel parked his car near the same quiet neighborhood. And there she was, running, same steady rhythm, same calm presence. He stepped out, a small smile forming. "Morning jog?" he called. She slowed, turning toward him. "Evening, actually," she replied with a hint of humor. He nodded. "Right." There was a pause. Comfortable this time. "You still running the same route?" he asked. "Sometimes," she said. "It reminds me of something." "What's that?" She looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "That humanity still shows up," she said. Daniel let that settle, because he knew exactly what she meant. And for the first time in a long time, The badge on his chest didn't just feel like responsibility, it felt like purpose. Not because of authority, not because of power, but because of something far simpler. The choice to treat people with dignity, no matter who they are, or who you think they might be.